I just pressed it.
Nice. Okay, let me just make sure that we are live. We are live. Oh my
Wow.
goodness. Yeah, and I believe the audio works this time. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. And just to double check before we start anything, please let us know if the audio works. And first of all, would you like to
Yes. Hello. Just double. Yeah, we're both double checking because this is a video call. Can you hear both of us?
hello, everybody. Could you please confirm
Oh, I need to press this.
Us.
Now we're good. Now I think we can hear both.
Right, they're just saying hello right now, so I don't know. Can you guys please let us know if you guys can hear us well?
Saying it's hard to hear. So we're still getting this. Black pen, red pen, mic sorta quiet, it says.
Is it?
Oh. So it's because one thing earlier, people are now saying they can hear both. I think it's because there was some setting which was not right on the streaming system, which is my fault. But I think we're good now. So black pen, red pen is still quiet, they say.
Well, because I wasn't talking, so...
Oh yeah, well that's a good reason that it was quiet. And I have your volume at maximum on this streaming.
Perfect. Hamza says, I'm still quiet. Still quiet. Like, how quiet are you guys talking about? It's still quiet. Why is it quiet?
It's quiet still, not loud enough. Okay, let's do this check. Am I loud enough?
And now this echo. Oh goodness.
It is
terrible.
hearable. You're half as loud. Okay, so now we know that the relative audio is half. I wonder if I can just amplify you. Let me go and see what's here. Filters. Audio
I have
filters.
yes right now. So
I can
right
actually
now
probably just amplify yours.
Okay.
Is it true? Gain? I can try to make yours louder.
Okay.
I just adjusted it. Would you like to try?
Okay, hello everybody. How is this now? We just want to make sure that the audio works this time before we start anything. And in the meantime, thank you guys for coming to the live stream. I'm very happy to have everybody here, and of course, I'm very happy to have Professor Pochendo here with us.
Wow, it looks like people are happy. A little quiet, but a lot better. Perfect. Better. We can hear both.
Okay, cool. Hey, Dr. Payan, shout out to Dr. Payan. Dr. Payan is in the chat as well. Nice. So if I'm looking away, I'm sorry because I'm just looking at the phone to make sure that I'm reading the comments, right? So, yeah.
Oh, they want even higher. Okay, I make it higher. Let's just adjust
Okay.
this. We're working together on this one. This is a big collaboration. So we can make it a
Definitely.
little louder. I just pushed it
Yeah.
up a bit higher. Would you be willing, Black Pen, Red Pen, to say hello?
Hello, people. How are you guys doing? Well, today I'm not solving integrals with you guys, but today we have a very special guest, Professor Shen Loh, on our channel. So let's know if the audios are okay, and then we'll start. And I'm very sorry about last time because the last Friday, the audio and also the connection didn't work out that well. So, okay, we got a lot of perfect so far. Okay, let's make this official. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for coming. Today, we have a very special guest, Professor Pochendo. Thank you so much for coming. It's
Thank you.
a real honor for you to be on our channel. Thank you so much. And for the people who don't know, I just want to introduce Professor Pochendo to you guys first. Professor Pochendo, you have a very impressive resume. And man, then you went to Caltech for undergrad, and then you went to Cambridge, and then you got your math PhD from Princeton, and you have been a professor at Carnegie Mellon for almost like 12 years or 13 years, right? Yeah, and you are also currently the coach for the US IMO team. very impressive, and I'm very, it's just really happy for me to have you to be on the channel for you to share your experience with us. We are going to learn a lot today from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, you're too generous. I actually think those are all old things. Actually, to me, I always think of what I can't do. And I think that the fact that you have been able to get hundreds of thousands of people excited about doing calculus problems is very impressive. So
Thank you so
it's
much.
a real pleasure is mine to be here on this channel.
Thank you. So, this is how the live stream is going to go. We'll pretty much have 3 parts. So I'm going to first ask my questions, and then after my questions, which are just 3 questions or so, and we will look at the chat. So for the people who are on the live stream, you guys can leave your questions in the chat later on, and that's pretty much it. And we are going to have fun. Yeah. So first of all, Professor Loh, would you like to just say hello to our viewers first? And are there anything that you would like us to know about you that you think that we don't know yet?
Oh, wow. Okay, so first of all, I mean, hello to everybody. It's amazing to be on this channel together with Black Pen, Red Pen. I actually have been following all of the different work that the best math communicators are making. And so to me, to be able to join one of them on this channel is fantastic. Maybe something random that you might not have known about me. Well, I don't know. Depends, because I get the sense that on this channel, there might be some people from Southeast Asia. And so what I'll say is that my family is from Singapore. So if you can hear a little bit of the way I speak English, you may or may not notice that there's a little bit of a Singaporean sound inside.
Nice. I see. Okay, so yeah, everything is going well so far. Let me just double check in the chat. Yeah, so nobody complaining about the audio. So we're good. Well, I've been following you. And in fact, I think I know you, and a lot of viewers know you first because of the video, the most beautiful equation in math, and also quite recently a different way to solve quadratic equations. Yeah, I think that's how I get to know you. And last year, Payam went to CMU, and then Payam met you, and then that's how we have connections. So I'm very happy to have you here. So next question, I would just like to know, was there an important moment that happened to you that made you say, I like math, that I wanted to be a math professor? Is there any a breakthrough moment that happened to you?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of these breakthrough moments. First of all, when I was in middle school and I discovered the middle school math competitions, I found the questions to be very interesting because I couldn't do them. I think there's something about personality. I like things that are hard just because they feel good when you solve them. And so by finding that made me think that I liked math competitions. But I didn't know what math really was. I just knew what competitions were. It was much later during my PhD that, because I was working with a professor who had very good view of what does it mean to do research. And he shared with me how to find interesting problems and why they were even important. And then that kept me being interested.
Wow, I see. So math competitions, and then I think you have done a lot of math competitions when you were a student, right? And right now you're just pretty much continue that, and you're a coach now. How is it different between when you were a student versus you are a coach?
Being a student is much more fun. So
Really?
yeah, because you see, I think of it this way. When you're actually a student, you get to do the problems. When you're the coach, you get to watch other people do the problems. As I said, the fun part is the hard thing. So actually, sometimes I even get to play. Actually, the National Museum of Mathematics has a math competition for old people, which I participate in every year. It's called the Masters. And it's fun. I actually like to go and play the competition myself as well. But I mean, as a coach, it's different, right? When I see my job as a coach, I actually don't even try to just help people do problems. Actually, my job as a coach, I see, is to try to help people realize that they can use their math skills to go and keep doing interesting things, not only to do like middle school or high school math competitions.
I see. And next, I would like to ask, could you please share one of your favorite moments when you were a student? Like maybe in undergrad or grad school or maybe PhD, just like any moment that came to your mind right now that you can share with us.
So I think that for me, the moments, I'll give one. When I was a graduate student, it was I think probably around one of these first times when I solved a problem that nobody else in the world had solved before.
Wow.
But by the way, I mean, the problem was completely useless and insignificant. It was for a graduate student, right? So the way it works is when you're a PhD student, you have to learn how to do research. And so your advisor, your PhD advisor, the professor, gives you a problem that you might be able to solve, you little person who doesn't know so much stuff, which if he wanted to do, he could do in 5 minutes, okay? But so this is the experience. But at least nobody else had done it before, right? So that's a different feeling.
Could you just share with us the problem? Though? A lot of us, including myself, we would like to know what the problem was. Yeah, can you just share real quick the problem with us?
Okay. So I can say the kind of question that this is around, right? One of these things would be, so one of these questions would be, if you have like all of these people, and these are all just dots. This is actually graph theory. So you have all of these people. These are all these different. You can think of them as dots on the screen, and then every pair of them, let's connect them with a line which has some color. Now the thing is, there can be many different colors, and you can think of this as sort of saying these are relationships between people, and they are different kinds. Maybe this is co-worker, maybe this is roommate, maybe this is that they are best friends, maybe this is worst enemies. But you have all these different colored lines, okay? And then the question is something like this. Suppose that you would like to be able to prove that as long as I have enough dots, and I'm connecting every pair by a line, then there will either be some kind of a all same color tree. So a tree is like it's a very specific tree. It's like saying I want to have one node connected to one node, connected to two nodes, something like that. A very particular drawing, right? I'm saying there's a particular drawing you want to get in all one color, or you want to be able to you want to guarantee that no matter how you make this bunch of dots and no matter how you decide to connect some of them with colors, you're guaranteed to either get this particular tree all one color, or this other particular tree all different colors, with the lines in all different colors. And so this kind of a problem is, suppose I have a very fixed tree like this and another very fixed tree like that. At what point is it guaranteed that no matter how these things are connected, you'll find one or the other, all one color or all different colors?
Wow. I think it will take me a while to just first understand what the question is, and then of course, yeah.
Yeah, it took me like hours to understand what the question is first, but I tried to explain it in this way to give an idea of how it might even have applications, right? If you want to have applications of graph theory, the general notion of graph theory is you have people and you have different kinds of relationships. Can you draw any conclusions that happen whenever you have these people and these relationships? And that's the general flavor.
I see. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And now let's take a look at the live chat. So, dear viewers, if you guys have any questions, we'll take about like 5-10 minutes or so to answer your questions. I don't want to do all the Q&A at the end. I want to do it in between. So that way it's more engaging. So right now it's your chance to ask your questions. Yeah. So Professor Loh, can you please also take a look at the chat and then pick up the questions?
I am watching the chat right now.
Perfect.
But since this is your channel, I'm not jumping in. I'm happy to have you jump.
Would you please just read out the question and then just pick the questions that you are going to answer? Like, for example, Jose is asking, did you always know you wanted to study math?
I can answer that. I don't even know if I'm studying math right now. So I always knew what I wanted to do is I wanted to help people. I wanted to work on very hard, impossible things. And I wanted to invent new ways to solve them. That's what I wanted. And I happen to be doing math right now because it's a fun way to do all of this.
I see. Wow. And then let's see. What are the factors that determine if a notation is good or not?
The factors that determine whether notation is good or not. I often actually make up my own notation too. It's just I will come up with something that makes sense. I like to have things flow. Sometimes I even think of from left to right, to how you draw an arrow. I want it to mean something. To me, a notation should mean something. And so that I guess it's almost like art and math crossed together.
Definitely. Yeah, coming up with notations, it's tough. And yeah, but without notations, we cannot do math. Otherwise, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, so something that affected me a lot with even notation. So if you actually watch any of the videos where I teach math, you will notice that I try to use as little notation as possible. Because what I found out is if you invent a new notation that's new to the audience, they have to think every time they see it. And so I'd
true.
like to minimize the amount of extra thinking that the audience has to do. So actually,
Makes
I don't
sense.
even use this sigma notation. You know, like the sigma.
You
I
don't
often
use-
will not write the sigma. I will write like this plus this plus this plus dot dot dot. I teach an entire combinatorics class where I have not actually written the sigma notation yet.
Wow.
But the reason is because you see, it's different. In integrals, you teach calculus. You cannot possibly write plus
Yeah.
dot 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 because it's not discrete anyway. Yeah, you just it doesn't exist. But I do discrete mathematics.
Right.
In discrete mathematics,
Yeah.
I don't have a
Oh.
dx. Yeah, so I can just do plus plus dot dot dot. Hunt for patterns.
Nice. I see. Next. From the same person, what are the career
Wow, Dr.
choices
Payam
that are
also
math-
commented about sigma notation. This is hilarious.
From the same person, what are the career choices that a mathematician can make?
Oh, career choices. You see, mathematicians are actually very valuable. They can think. You should be a mathematician because then you learn how to think. Actually, I
Aw,
think that
yes,
the
yes.
biggest thing that I learned from an undergraduate math class was just how to deal with so many backwards E's and upside down A's chained together. It makes your brain, it turns your brain upside down because especially if you do calculus, there's so many notions. Even the
Yeah.
definition of a limit is so complicated. But so I think
yeah,
that just teaches you how to think. And then you can have lots of career choices. Some people go to work in finance. Some people go to work writing programs. Some of us don't even work at all. We just have fun. Like when I say don't work, we really enjoy teaching and explaining math. This is not work. This is much
True,
better
true,
than
true,
all of
true.
the other works, in my
Yes,
opinion.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. When you are having fun, you don't really feel like working. Yeah, that's why I usually that's why I say like doing math for fun on my channels. Yeah. Okay, so Jonathan is asking, what is your greatest achievement?
I don't know. I don't actually know about that yet. I will find out soon. My thing is, I guess I can tell you what I care about. I try to have some impact in the world. That's what my goal is, right? And so to me, the more people's lives that I can touch in a positive way, the better. That's actually why I have a lot of respect for the people like, Black Pen, Red Pen. You
Oh,
you
thank you
influence
so much.
hundreds of thousands of people with your videos. That's fantastic. And so for me, greatest achievement, I don't know yet, but I would quantify it in terms of how many people did it affect.
I see. And then some other people are also asking like math questions, but I don't think we are going to do the math today. We're pretty much just talking. So let me pick another one. Hamza is asking, what do you do when you don't understand the question?
If I don't understand the question and there's somebody who's asking the question, then I ask them, what do you mean? If there's not a person asking the question and the reason I don't understand it is I don't understand some words, then I go and start to learn. Actually, you see, I don't know what stage you are in learning, but at a certain point, you don't get a teacher anymore. I mean,
Right,
Black Pen,
true,
Red Pen,
yeah.
and I, we don't get teachers anymore. But we
Yes.
have to constantly learn stuff. So
Yes.
actually, you have to just learn how to learn. And the way you do that is whenever there's something you don't understand, you go and try to look it up. And if it talks about something you don't understand, you look that up. And then you go
Yes.
until you eventually get it.
Yes. Nice. Okay, so let me continue with my questions right here. I wanted to ask you on your opinion about which one you like more, pure math or applied math? Because for me, one of my regrets is that I didn't study enough applied math when I was a student. I was only focusing on study and like focusing on learning how to teach the math to other people. So what do you think about applied versus pure?
I'll give a very funny answer. So this is
Okay.
inspired by a colleague of mine who's another professor. And so we were once at some meeting where there were lots of people from all over the university, and we were going around the table explaining what we do because it was introducing yourself. So there's the biologists, they explain they're trying to cure cancer. You got the chemists talking about how they're making chemicals like polymers and plastics. What are we going to say? It gets around to my colleague, the mathematician, and he very cheekily said he's a theoretical applied mathematician. So he said that he likes this because, and he thought it was funny. I think it is funny. He said he works on applied math, but he likes the theory of the applied math. So he likes to
Wow.
prove theorems about the kinds of questions that people in applied math ask, like often the differential equations. So
Wow.
I'm showing that, right?
Yeah.
But then when it got to me, I said, oh, I'm an applied theoretical mathematician. Right? So we are opposites, right? So what I said is,
Right.
I like to think about the core theoretical ideas, but then I often like to think about how to actually apply them and make them into things that you can use in the real world. I really care a lot about the real world. So to me, I personally am trying to bring any insights from pure math directly into the real world. And so, for example, that's why I'm working on these networks and these graphs, right? These connections between people. Those are actually directly applicable, except that oftentimes I'll bring in some ideas from pure theory in order to hopefully bring the ability of the world up one notch.
I see. Wow. And speaking of that, I know you have been working and developing your own app called Innovate. And the purpose of that is to help stop the spread of coronavirus. Can you please tell us more about it? And also what made you start it and what are your goals with it?
Oh, of course. So the situation with this app called Novid, which we're making, is exactly an example of applied pure mathematics. So when 1 year ago, when COVID started, I realized that the area of math I work in, which is about connections between people, well, that's really related to spread of disease. So I decided we should find some way to use the theory we have from this networks in order to solve things about disease. And then here's how we came up with a totally new idea. And this is an example of what you do when you bring pure math into applied area. Here's what normally was done before and is still done now. Normally, you go and say, here's a sick person, find the people around the sick person, and try to remove all of them from society against their will. Unfortunately, the against their will makes the basis of every zombie movie. It's just that doesn't work as well. And so our idea is very simple. It's just for every person who's sick, tell everyone else how many relationships away they are from the sick person. For example, if this is a person and they are 1, 2, 3 relationships away from the sick person, you say the sick person is 3 away from you. And 3 relationships might be your office mate's housemate's office mate, something like that. And all we did by this change is we changed it from telling a true or false, are you or are you not around somebody who's sick, change it into an integer. How many steps away are you from somebody who's sick, where a step is actually a relationship? And that's the core of what we've made, which, like any good mathematics, once you make one of these fundamental changes to the core, then you spend all your time thinking, what happens? What is the consequence of this? And the consequence of this is we've actually invented the first tool in the world where you can see danger, see the disease coming before it gets to you some distance away, just like radar. And as we speak right now, we're trying to get more and more people to understand about this. Just to answer the other part of your question, you also asked, why did I start this? I started this also because I like the hard problems. I like to help people. And one of the hardest problems has been how to stop this COVID. And it helps a lot of people. So I was interested.
I see. A lot of us, a lot of the viewers, especially the younger students, they would like to plan out for their futures. They would like to know what are the things that they can do. And speaking of what you're doing right now, what kind of math does someone need in order to understand and do what you do? What kind of backgrounds, knowledge that the person needs? Yeah.
So in the thing that I'm doing right now, which is where you're actually making some kind of an IT thing, something which is involving phones and talking between phones, the most important area of math is combinatorics and graph theory. And that is, I would say, no matter what you do, I actually strongly recommend it, because I even use graph theory for networking. I just mean the networking in the sense of talking to important people and trying to get things done. I actually think of the whole human civilization as a giant network of, if you want to try to reach this person to be able to maybe, I don't know, if the goal is to get Elon Musk, how do you reach him? Well, you reach him through people, right? So it's all about network theory. So I actually very strongly encourage that piece. Other things that are useful in what I'm doing, probability. I also will highly recommend everybody understand well probability and statistics, whether you do math or whether you don't do math, because the world is not deterministic. So these are 2 core pieces. There are some other pieces that were useful too. I mean, we actually ended up also using a little bit of number theory because of cryptography. Because things that we were doing to protect privacy, we wanted to make sure that we could communicate between phones in a way that was hard for people to understand. And number theory is actually the basis of a lot of cryptographic methods.
I see. So now, because we have talked about this a lot, let's take a look at the chat and see if you have any questions that you guys would like to ask. Maybe your questions are the questions that you didn't think of, so they'll be valuable. So we are looking at the chat right now. Viewers, if you guys would like, you guys can leave your your questions in the chat, and maybe more like math related, like responding to what we are talking about, right? So let's take a look at what we have. So Yash is asking how to be stronger in combinatorics.
Yes, combinatorics is the subject that I was the most scared of in school and in competitions because I didn't know how to do it. It seemed not systematic. You know, like if you do an algebra problem, just do it. If you see a calculus problem, just do it. You see a combinatorics problem, like, how you count this thing? And then you go and count it, you count it again, and the answers don't match, right?
Oh.
So actually, that's why I say it's one that's very useful to learn. And the way that I ended up learning it is by when you do different questions, you try to find patterns of different ways of thinking as you're solving these questions. So what I mean is, combinatorics is a field where you have a lot of things that you can invent. And that's actually why I like it. It's a very creative area where you can have lots of different ways of counting things or proving things. But the only way to learn it is by doing it. It's not like other things. Like if I want to learn how to play a sport, somehow I can have a coach just train me in the same motion. Or if it was ping pong, you know, the people who just keep practice same stroke. Combinatorics is not like that. Like the combinatorics is one where you have to just keep looking at the challenge and keep trying different challenges that get harder and harder.
I see. Speaking of that, I do have a question that just came to my mind. Like, suppose you are solving a real life situation problem. Like, how do you know that you have the correct answer though? Because, for example, like a counting question, of course, if you're trying to solve a real life situation, there's no solution menu. So how can you ensure that your answer is actually correct?
That's a very important thing to do. And for example, that's what we're doing right now, since we're writing a computer program to go and deliver a service to like 100,000 people. So what you have to do is you have to try to solve it in two different ways. The way that you check any answer is you go and do it in two very different ways and see if the answer is the same.
I see. Okay, let's see. So is there any other things that makes you want to do more math?
Is there any other thing that makes me want to do more math? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Oh, math is actually really fun. So I should say, I find math relaxing, to be honest. I find it really fun to go and think about something because, okay, it's like this. Other things that I do in my life these days, they don't make sense. So, for example, I mean, in order to get this new way of saving people, making a way to fight disease, I have to talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people aren't even mathematical. I have to go and explain to them, here's how this thing works. I have to go and convince people that this is important. There's no science to that. And okay, that's also a fun challenge. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy talking to people. But then when I go and sit down and do math, look, 2 plus 2 is 4. It's just 4, okay? And I never have to worry about the fact that maybe 2 plus 2 doesn't feel like being 4 today. So math is a very controlled thing. The second best is computer programming, which is what I spent the afternoon doing. Also very relaxing for me. You make a for loop for x equals 1 to 10. It's going to go from 1 to 10. It's not going to give you 12. It's just going to go from 1 to 10 unless you made a typo. So to me, the thing about math and this computer is that it's very, very controlled. And so, if I had more time, I would enjoy just thinking about it. I just don't always have the time to go and play with the questions.
Nice. Okay, and let's see. Do you see any questions that you would like to answer? Because I see lots of questions that I don't know which one I can bring up. Would you like to pick a question, Professor Loh?
Oh, sure. Somebody asked, what's your favorite calculator? I'll give you the answer. No calculator. I'm very lazy. I actually really hate typing things into the calculators. Somebody asked me what because you see, the way I see it is, I'll tell you why. Because I like the art of figuring out how to do something. And once it becomes the mechanical piece of, punch it in calculator, it's not interesting anymore. So for me, the fun part, and actually every exam I make exams for which, on the classes I teach, where you don't need a calculator, because if it's need a calculator because it's got some messy numbers, I'd rather give you a problem which has nice numbers, but the hard part is to think about what to do. So I actually don't like any calculators.
I see. Let me see.
Somebody said calculator is mad slow. It depends. Yeah. Sometimes it is also mad slow.
Let's see. Well, we have a lot of questions coming, a lot of comments. So how do you prepare for math competitions?
So here's a tip. If you want to prepare for math competitions, there's different timeline of how close it is to the competition. If you are more than 2 months away from the competition, just focus on developing your skills in solving questions. If you're within the last 2 months, start worrying about the actual speed and the time limits and everything in the contest. Here's why. Because a lot of people make a mistake where they prepare for a 1-hour competition by always spending 1 hour and doing previous year's problems. If you do that, you will only practice all the easy ones which you already know how to do, and then you do some middle ones, and you never get any time thinking about the hard ones because you ran out of time. But that's not making you better. It's just making you faster at the easy things. Much better is if you just use your time and say, I just go and do all the questions. I'll take a long time, take a whole day, even though it's a 1-hour contest. But then you learn how to solve the hard things. And then finally, in the last 2 months, you go and say, okay, now I actually will go and learn how to do this in the time limit.
I see. Wow. And a person asks, what's your book for, what do you recommend? Which book would you recommend for combinatorics?
I actually don't have a particular book, only because of the fact that it's best if you are fighting with the questions. So I actually would say if you're in high school, then all of these old math competition questions are exceptional. If you go and find the old combinatorics problems and you try to work on them, then you will learn a lot. But it's not very useful to say the way I learn it is I just go and look at a book and the book teaches me all the methods. Because the hard part about the combinatorics is inventing the methods.
I see. Do you like objective types of question or subjective type of questions?
So
that's an interesting one.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I really like. I like questions that matter. So I have 2 different kinds of things, right? No, in general, I like questions that matter. But there are different ways to matter. One way to matter is that if you've solved the question, you have come up with a new way to understand something. And for example, that's how I happened upon this simple way of solving quadratic equations. It was I was just doing some other questions that I had invented, and it caused me to think about looking at things in a different way. And that's interesting. That's kind of like what makes a pure math question valuable. If by doing it you saw something and learned something.
Yeah.
But then there's also the other part that can make something valuable if it's actually useful. And now suddenly those aren't necessarily beautiful. Those are just useful. And so some of the questions I work on these days are just useful things about how to help people not get COVID, right? And that's a different kind of thing, but both are important questions.
I see. Okay. Another question. Are you working on today?
It's what kind of problem I'm working on today? Is that the question?
I think it's just general. What are you working on today?
Yeah, I mean the general thing.
What do you? Yeah.
Yeah, the general thing I'm working on today is because our team came up with this fundamentally different way of fighting disease, which is got sick person, tell everyone how far away is disease by counting relationships, number of steps in the graph. That is unusual, and it's very rare to come up with a different way to solve a problem. Actually, I think that might be the most important thing I've ever discovered, that there's this different way you can approach disease. And so what I'm trying to do now is I've been talking to people of all different backgrounds, from public health to epidemiology to economics to social science, everyone trying to get this idea out into general public.
I see. I can imagine that you work so many hours a day, so many hours a week. That you want to give us like a rough estimate, the number of hours that you work per day or per week?
It's a lot. I mean, I think, yeah, it's somewhere between 80 and 100 per week. So it's like it's between 12 and 14 hours a day, something like that. But you see, it's because of what we said earlier. I mean, is this supposed to count as work? In some sense we're working, right? We're communicating, but does it look like either of us are working? We enjoy this stuff. So and I mean, it's just fun. It's fun to be able to work on something that matters.
I love that. Wow. Let me continue with my questions I prepared. This right here is actually I would like to just ask you. I'll ask you this one. What are your teaching strategies, especially to make students to be interested in math?
Okay, I can tell you a secret that I did. So this I learned because at some point I was also trying to communicate communicate mathematics to many people. And I thought I was good, but I was working with some professionals and they told me, you don't really know how to talk to normal people. You need to go and learn. And so they advised me to go and take a professional class to teach how to communicate. It was based on improv comedy. And the class cost like $20,000 for 20 hours. And I said, this sounds ridiculous.
Wow.
I don't think, I think, that's sort of like saying, hey, let's send this toddler to college. It's completely useless, okay? It's a toddler, it doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. So I said, I have a better idea. Let me go and find every improv comedy class in Pittsburgh and I'll enroll. These are classes for adults, okay?
Okay.
And you just go and you take these classes. And I spent a year taking improv comedy classes in Pittsburgh for several hours every week, where next to me in the class, totally normal people, okay? They're not math professors. In fact, I tried not to tell anyone I was math professor. I just was like, I'm just Po, okay? I'm just some guy. Maybe I'm a college student, you don't know. And I'm just going to go and try to learn how to be funny and to communicate with everybody else here. Actually, it worked pretty well until at one point in one of the classes, right on the day of the final show, some guy just burst in saying, I just saw you on YouTube. And I was like, oh no. So now you know who I actually am. But the point is, I'm just saying, I actually went and took time to go and learn these classes. It was very, very useful. And so to get people's interest, I think actually learning how to perform is really useful. And one can take classes for that.
I see. That's very nice. That's very cool. Wow.
Oh, Dr. Payam agrees. He says that he took 7 years of acting classes. So now you're starting to find out.
Nice. When I start teaching, especially when I was preparing interview at my college, I was actually watching Steve Jobs and also Gabriel Iglesias because I didn't really want to watch like math professors teach because I want to have a different point of view, different kind of way to approach students, and of course Steve Jobs is like the best in terms of like presenting or doing the demos, and then Gabriel Iglesias, I don't know if you know him, I'm a big fan of him. He's a funny comedian. Yeah, so I think we have some similarity, and also parents in the chat as well. That's really cool. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. All right, and there's another question. Actually, I was talking to a viewer. He's actually about to graduate from high school. His name is Justin, and he is going to go to University of Toronto. He wants to do competition questions in college, such as the Pune exam, but he doesn't have too much competition experience in high school. So in that case, what would you recommend him to do?
Oh, okay. So at Carnegie Mellon, I teach students who are preparing for the Putnam exam, and many of them have never had competition experience. That's fine.
Wow.
So the good thing is, if your school, the university you go to, if they have classes, ideally if those classes for the Putnam are welcoming to new people, that's the best. If for some reason they don't, you can just go and watch the ones that I recorded this year. So what I mean is that we did it, I mean, this year was everything remote, yeah? So since everything was remote,
wow.
I just put everything on my YouTube. So you can actually go and watch all my Carnegie Mellon classes just on my YouTube channel.
Nice. And are there any like materials, like books, notes that you also provide or you recommend?
Yeah, so I usually collect lists of questions that are interesting to work on. And so these lists of questions are all on the Putnam websites that I run for CMU. Everyone can use them. I actually know that there are other universities which just use those as their Putnam training, which is fine. That's what, whatever. More people use better.
I see. So Justin, I'm talking to you. I think this is the best answer, that you can receive. I think that's the best answer. So this is for you, Justin. All right. So lastly, I would like to just ask you, can you please give us some encouragement, especially for the students who are struggling, some encouragement or some tips for like maybe high school students or college students who are struggling in math?
Ooh, yes. So I want to put one thing right away. A lot of people believe that math is about talent. I don't. I've worked with so many different people, and I can see, I mean, anyone who teaches a lot, like yourself, like Dr. Payam, we have taught all kinds of people, including people who start struggling. And if you just explain it in the right way, they get it. Actually,
nice.
what I feel is,
that. Oh my God.
Don't be scared. I think the biggest thing is, if you're scared of it, scared of the math, your brain will just lock up, and you will say, I just can't do it. You'll believe that you just were born not able to do it. That's not true at all. So what I recommend is, find great channels like what you are on right now, or find other good teachers who can, or tutors who can help explain things to you. And if there's something you don't understand in math, here's the secret. If there's anything you don't understand, ask why, and try to dig a little bit more basic. Eventually, you'll get to something you do understand, like 2 + 2 = 4. But if you try to learn math where you just memorize that, my teacher said if I see this, I do that. Why? Because teacher said so. And then you have more and more and more of these. Soon you cannot remember them all. And you go and say, what did teacher say? Was there a minus or was there a plus? I forgot. And then the whole math becomes, sometimes there's a plus, sometimes there's a minus. I don't remember. I can't do any of these anymore. And I can't understand why anything is true because I just do it because somebody else told me. That is not how you do math. That's how you don't do math. For me, I just dig down to bottom. And that's actually why I also dare to do this thing where, I do this YouTube live stream every Saturday in the US, Saturday evening, where I just invite students to go ask me anything. And then what we have to do is I have to go and explain to them. And if I have to explain more basic, we explain more basic. But this is just to show people that no matter what your question is, you can always dig down to basic enough, and then everyone can understand.
I see. Wow. So if someone can explain math in the right way, then the person will get it. And well, thank you so much for the answer for that. Wow. And how about, what would you do if a student is just like what they call the math anxiety, that they're just, when you tell them math or fractions, they just, no, don't even talk to me about that. I think that would be like a more extreme case. So in that case, do you have any strategy for that as well?
Yeah, I would say for that one, again, it depends on the context of what class they're in. For example, if they're taking a class and they're a final year student in the college and they need to take algebra in order to pass and they've taken it 3 times before and failed. This happens, by the way. This is actually quite common, right?
Yes,
and then
then
the difficulty becomes to try to help them feel like they can, right? To try to go down to the thing that they can do. And actually, algebra is not that hard. If you build from the things that you can do, there aren't that many more steps, and then you get the algebra. But the problem is if you're rushing it, and you're just trying to say, look, if I see this thing, what do I do exactly? And you don't understand why, when you take the +4 on one side, it goes to the other side with a minus. Like if you don't understand why you did that, then the whole thing becomes complicated. But it's one of those, like, let's pull back, let's pause, let's start with what we know, and take one step.
I see. Wow. Thank you so much. And now let's take a look at the chat. So again, you guys, if you guys have any questions, please leave in the chat right now. And this is pretty much toward the end of the interview. So this is like the last chance for you guys. If you have any questions, you guys can ask, Professor Loh regarding his work, his app, the Novi app, and anything that you guys want to come up with. But we're not trying to solve any math questions unless that we can solve by just talk through it. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. Stat 201 at UTK. Wow. Okay. So University of Kentucky. I don't know. But I'm sorry. What's your favorite programming language?
I actually like all of them. I mean, I was just programming just now in C++. I find it very fast. So if I'm trying to do a lot of computation, I need to use C++. I can tell you why. It's because for this Novid app we're making, we need to calculate for every person and for every sick person, how many relationships away are you? And we need to do this if the number of people in the system is millions. Now suddenly you need to have very fast compute. And that's where C++ is nice. But sometimes I need to do things where I just want it to be easy to write the program, then I might use Python. But I think, to me, all the different languages are just, they have all their, some has positives, some has negatives. I give you an example. Over the weekend, I was making something, I can say what this is. So I love giving talks to parents also. I know that most people here are students, but I love giving talks to parents also. And I used to travel to different cities every weekend to give talks to parents about learning math. But then now I can't. So then I set up something where I have these talks that are for parents to join, but in order for me to know which place to give a talk, as parents sign up, my rule is as soon as the region reaches 50 people, then I'll make a talk. So you can imagine there are these buckets. And right now there are 4 buckets: US Eastern Time Zone, US Western Time Zone, US Central, US Mountain. And so
Yes.
there are these buckets and people are registering. And what I was writing over the weekend was something using Python to go and figure out how many people have registered for each of them, to update in real time some website that would say, here are how many people have registered for each one. And the reason I wrote the program is because we will soon have this where there'll be something like 50 of them for every state in the US. And then we'll start opening these all around the world, where it's just if there are enough parents who want to ask questions to me in real time, then, once you hit 50, we organize a session. Things like this. But in order to write a program like that, it had to keep making web calls. It was as if a human was doing it, the human has to go click, 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 look at this number, copy, paste. And Python is very good at simulating click, 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 copy, paste. C++ is very good at saying, what is this number plus that number, do as fast as possible.
Oh, nice. I never, well, the only programming language that I had was Java back in high school, like over a decade ago. And then before that, I took Visual Basics. I think a lot of students, they don't do that anymore. Maybe you remember it.
I remember
Visual
it.
Basic.
I did Visual Basic too.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was really fun. And Tamatrix would like to just thank you. Thank you for your explanations. Yeah, he really appreciated that. It says so good. Yeah. And let's see. What is your opinion for Math Olympiad?
So I think that Math Olympiads are a great tool to help you learn how to think. That's the biggest value. Now, some people get too focused on them and just try to learn Math Olympiads for the sake of Math Olympiads, maybe because they just want to win. That might not be so useful. I did Math Olympiads not to try to win. I didn't think I would win, and I didn't win. But in the same time, I just used all the questions to challenge myself. And that was fun. So it's a source of hard problems. And when you're young, do as many hard problems as you can. Then eventually, when you're older, you'll keep chasing hard problems. And who knows what you'll do.
Nice. Okay, this right here. What is your opinion about the Riemann hypothesis?
I think that it's nice that there are certain questions in math that attract a lot of attention, not necessarily to solve it, but to solve questions around it. Because if you don't have some general directions you're trying to go into, there's too many different questions you could study. Research is very broad. If you ask my opinion of will anyone solve it, probably, eventually. Humans are very, very creative. And so somebody will eventually solve this thing. But what's its relevance? It has actually relevance to things like prime numbers. And that's a deep thing that we don't understand. How random are prime numbers?
Let's see. Do you see any questions? Because we got a lot of questions. Do you have any questions that catches your eyes, Professor Loh?
So to me, I actually don't. Okay, so the things that catch my eyes, especially when I'm making problems, are the ones where I say, oh, this is a very elegant question, which looks like it should be easy, but somehow I don't know how to solve it. Whenever it's like that, I say, how can there be something so simple looking that I don't know how to solve? Now I'm curious.
I totally agree with you on that. It's like because I recently just did some like real analysis proof, like for example, proving x squared is continuous. It's really easy to see it, but it's so hard to prove it. Right? It's so hard to prove it. That's pretty much what math is. And then not only you have x squared is continuous in the usual sense, but you also have the uniformity continuous. Oh my God. What is your favorite theorem in math?
What is my favorite theorem in math? So, I mean, it has to be the Euler identity, right? It's the easiest.
Oh yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Wow. Oh, what was the occasion for you to record that video? Would you like to share that? Because I was kind of wondering. Can you?
Okay, so this very funny video, this most beautiful equation in math. So I'm at Carnegie Mellon University. Carnegie Mellon likes to make videos sometimes. And so on one day, many years ago, the university said, Pi Day is coming. We should do something on Pi Day. And can we find some math professor? Okay, this guy is a pygmy. And they wanted to find somebody else who was working in some other area. So they found a student who had graduated from the arts, the arts part of Carnegie Mellon. And that person we actually had a longer extended interaction. But at the beginning, they tried to do something where they told us to ask each other questions or say things, and it was the most awkward thing ever because I'd never met her before. We're just sitting there and say something about yourself. Hi, I'm Shen Loh. I study math. And at some point we said, oh, forget it. This is ridiculous. I don't know how I can make a reasonable video for this. Let's just talk. And so we just started to chat, right? So I was talking, she was talking. She was telling about her business, which is making pies. I was just talking to her. At some point I got super excited and said, there's this equation. And what was it was reality shot. Like effectively what happened is there was supposed to be something scripted, which is a complete disaster. And then after that we gave up on that and we said, you're just an interesting person. Let's just talk. And they just kept the cameras rolling. And somehow they got that.
Wow. Well, what a story. Like nobody would know. Oh my God. I would never thought about it was because of that.
Oh, yes.
Wow. That's great. I think right now the video has over like 6 million views or something like that.
Yeah, it has a lot. I don't know why it has so many.
Yeah, because, I saw the video so many years ago and then I clicked it and then it's like, I kept watching it. Yeah, I just finished the whole thing without skipping, and then actually I watched that video more once. And by the way, Pi Day is also coming. Any plans for Pi Day?
Actually, I do have some plans on Pi Day because I do a lot of work for helping to teach mostly middle school students. So what will I be doing? Well, there's actually a national middle school math competition in the US called Math Counts. I'm working with the Math Counts organizers to run a live stream. I will go on the day before Pi Day, on Pi Day, and the day after Pi Day. And what happens is this is a math competition that middle school students will do. And I will show up on the YouTube, and I will attempt to do the problems without having any preparation, which is exactly how the students do it. It's basically I will be trying to do the problems. And all of the live viewers will be watching me make all kinds of arithmetic mistakes and wonder how you do this thing. But it's just, I just do it because I want to show people, here's how you think about questions if you don't know how to do them.
I see. Nice. Oh, speaking of that, Whiteboard Math is asking, what is your favorite proof?
I think in terms of favorite proofs, wow, I have a lot. I mean, some of these are the proofs by pictures, like somehow on something I was explaining to someone before about how 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9 is equal to a perfect square. And the way is because you draw one dot here, then you draw 3 dots, like here, here, and here. Hey, look, it's a square, right? If you start with 1 dot and you put 3 dots around it, then you've got a square, which is 2 by 2. That's why 1 plus 3 is 4, is 2 squared. But then if you want to make 5 more dots, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you've suddenly got a 3 by 3 square. So I'm just explaining these are like simple things. For more sophisticated things, I actually also really like the 1 over 1 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 9 plus 1 over 16. That is pi squared over 6. That is actually very cool. The proof that I know of that, I know there's many of them, but the one that I know is that I reconstruct is based on something called Fourier analysis, where you take the Fourier transform of a particular function. But I just think that these things where you have totally different kind of idea comes in to go and prove something, I think those are beautiful.
Nice. And what is one piece of advice that you would give to a high school student who is considering to major in math in college?
So the thing is, if you're going to major in math, that's going to give you the chance to learn why a lot of things are true. I strongly recommend that when you go and take a college math class, you don't memorize things. You really think about them. Actually, when I was in college, I developed this method of learning from math books. When you read a math book, you read the statement of the theorem, and then there's this very dense proof underneath, okay? College math is very different from high school math. High school math, you do da-da-da-da-da, answer is 3/4. But college math is like theorem, and then blah, 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 all these words. If you try to read the proof, where you read, by the time you're done reading, you forgot all of it. Because this is what happened to me. I couldn't hold a proof in my head where I just read it. So instead what I did is I said, okay, I got a theorem, right? Understand the theorem? Close the book. Try to prove it yourself. If it's difficult, it's difficult. And you usually don't necessarily prove it. But if you don't succeed, go and look at the parts of the proof and get some hints of, I would read the middle of the proof to get an idea of what kinds of stuff I need. I wouldn't read the beginning. I wouldn't read the end. I read the middle. I need to get to that point. Close again. And then try to figure out how to go from the beginning to the middle. And eventually you cut. If you don't succeed, you look at what's at 1/4. But eventually you figure it out. And then finally, when you read the proof, you say, I know why the first step was to let whatever be epsilon over 3. You know, like if it's analysis, why epsilon over 3? Well, it's because you're going to have 3 of them eventually. Do you know what I mean? But a lot of the analysis proofs start by saying, let it be the thing over 3. Where the 3 comes from.
I see. Yes. Nice. Wow. And are there anything that you would like us to know about the Novit app that you haven't talked about yet?
I think the biggest thing is it's just a different way of fighting disease, and that's exciting. That's just what I'm saying about the applied pure mathematics. Pure is where you come in with a different angle. And here it's so simple to say what is the difference. Instead of trying to tell people after they've already been around the disease to go away, tell everyone before they get around the disease and tell them how many steps away it is in terms of relationships. And we're trying as hard as we can to get this idea known as widely as possible. So if there are any people who are watching this who might have backgrounds in science or other communicators, I would love to talk to you because we have found something which could actually help human civilization. But the biggest problem is people don't know about it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I do have the links to your website and also your app in the description. And the app is free of download, so you guys can go check that out if you guys would like. Yeah, the links are in the description. And let's see, what are the questions that other people are asking?
You have a question. What is your favorite proof? Whiteboard Math has asked, what is your favorite proof?
How can I maybe just make a video on that later on? How's that? I cannot think about anything off of my head right now because usually because today is all about Professor Loh. So yeah, sorry about that, Whiteboard Math. And do you see anything interesting right now, like on the chat, that you would like to answer, Professor Loh?
I'm looking.
Okay.
The one from Mikhail B. How to study mathematics alone. I can say that, because we're not everyone is lucky to have a teacher, okay? But you are actually lucky now. You have YouTube. You have the internet. This is amazing. So the way that you can study mathematics alone is I would actually advise you try to follow some of these people who are often, widely followed. Of course, you're on one of these channels right now, but there are other channels too where the people talk about interesting things in mathematics. These things will give you an idea of how everything fits together. That's one side. But then the other side is to develop your own skills. And developing your own skills, like going through math in the sequence of the courses that usually are covered is useful. But then here's something. If you're doing high school things, do hard problems. Those are the math competitions. If you're doing college things, there are usually textbooks and there are exercises at the back. They're good. Think about the exercises, all of the exercises, if you have time, and then try to figure out how to solve those things. That's actually how you can learn a lot of mathematics on your own too.
I see. What was your thesis on, Professor Loh?
So my thesis was just on lots of questions that are about these kinds of networks. In fact, there were probably 5 questions or so. Actually, in combinatorics, okay, so I can tell you something funny about my thesis, right? So I already had applied for this job here at Carnegie Mellon. I was already going to come to Carnegie Mellon. In fact, most people who eventually become professors, usually by the time they write their thesis, they already know where they're going. There's usually some place there will be a postdoc or some place that they will be teaching. And so you have to think, what's the point of this thesis? You already have some place, right? So all you just need to do is graduate. And my PhD advisor had the same opinion. He said, look, you already got job. Why are you wasting your time writing this thesis? Just go staple together some papers. So we just, go find I found some old papers that I had written, like some research articles, and put them together. And the introduction, I spent maybe 1 week writing the introduction, trying to explain why these are all related. He asked why you spent a whole week writing the introduction. You're already done. So the answer is, effectively, it was just a bunch of results that I had proven about combinatorics, just put together.
Nice. I think I do have a question. I just thought about that. Can you share your experience with us, like the colleges that you went to, like Caltech, Cambridge, and Princeton? Like, can you just talk about the school? Like, what do you like about the schools? Because I know a lot of the viewers right now, they are in high school, and some of the students, they do want to go to like different schools. They would just like to know. In fact, Justin told me that he wants to go to Princeton for his graduate school. So can you just share your experience with those schools with us? Yeah.
So Caltech was, there's the word tech in it, okay? So Caltech is a pretty technically focused school. There are not as many people who go to Caltech whose goal is to be the president of the United States of America. In fact, there are probably no people who go to Caltech whose goal is to be the president of the United States of America. Similarly, there are very few people at Caltech whose goal is to be a famous poet. Again, there's probably no people who go to Caltech for that reason. So if you want to go to a place where there's a bunch of people who want to geek out over math and science, that's the place for you. Actually, when I went there, as I was visiting there as a prospective high school student, all the people who were visiting, we all were given a T-shirt. And the T-shirt said Caltech, the world's best playground for math and science and engineering. And that's the idea. It's like, if that's all you want to do, that's good. And there are values to that, and there's also limitations to that. I'm going to be upfront. Actually, I went there, I learned a lot of things about technical things. It's great. And I got a broad technical background. But I didn't necessarily learn from being around people who wanted to be president of the United States. There's a lot of value from learning that too. So you never get everything. And then I went to, one other interesting thing about Caltech, when I was there, all the exams were open book. So you didn't have to remember anything. You just have to think. Yeah, so I learned all of my subjects in a way where I didn't memorize anything. I just knew if I really need to see it, it'll be in the book there, but I need to know how to use the concepts. Then I went to Cambridge. In Cambridge, I did a very old-fashioned degree called the Part 3 of the Mathematical Tripos. It's been around for hundreds of years. And that's a master's degree, so it's a one-year program. But the interesting thing about that was that all of the exams had very little thinking of new things as much as remembering how you prove all the theorems. And that was closed book. And it was a 3-hour exam where it would ask you all these, you basically have to reprove all the theorems in the class. So it was actually the exact complement, if that makes sense. The Caltech was learn how to think about the theorems. The Cambridge was learn how to prove all the theorems with the famous proofs. So that put the two sides in. That was very useful. Also, Cambridge has a lot of history, which I was in America. America is a relatively young country, and it was very interesting for me to live over in UK for a while. And in Princeton, it's a different experience. Princeton, I was a graduate student, and the experience as a graduate student in Princeton was focusing on research, working together with some very, very motivated and highly accomplished professors. So that was an interesting experience. And over there, you could feel that discovery was happening. I mean, you would see Terence Tao visit. You would see, Andrew Wiles was there. You see all these people. Yeah, all these people who are discovering the latest in the mathematics are there. Whenever there's a new great discovery, they're all talking about it. It's like you're at the center of the discovery of the new things. So that was motivating because it let me understand that it was actually interesting to discover mathematics, not just to do problems that people had given to you before.
I see. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Thank you so much. Are there anything that you would like to just mention? Trainer, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
I should say we've been talking a lot about doing this math, but I will also say I have a lot of respect for the people who also try to communicate the mathematics, and that's why, for example, I really like being on this channel. I think that if we just we like math. Obviously, you look at the people commenting, they say, oh, these guys like math. But our goal, I think, is to get more people to like math too. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of us, talking amongst ourselves. So I do want to say, if we can find more ways to bring more people in, like as broad of an audience as possible, I want to do it because I'm selfish. I think that if there's a selfish motive, if more people like to think and reason, I think the world is going to be a better place. So good job to all of you who are trying to get more people interested.
Nice. Thank you. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Professor Loh, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me here. And I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you. And I also want to thank all the viewers. Thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon. And thank you guys so much for the questions. This live will be on my channel later on after the YouTube process the video. So for the people who missed the live, well, unfortunately, but you guys can watch the replay and leave the comments in the description. And I do have some information about Professor's website, so you guys can go check that out. All right? Thank you so much. And as always, that's it. See you guys next time. Bye.